Welcome to the Raising Cinephiles podcast, a show about passing on your love of cinema to the next generation. I'm your host, Jessica Kantor, and I have worked in all facets of the entertainment industry for the last 20 years, and recently became a mom. Always remember that myself and guests are speaking from personal experience, not giving parenting advice. Let's go ahead and dive into the episode. Today, I am joined with Shanti Lowry, who is an actress, producer, dancer, writer. Did I get them all?
Yeah, I anything creative is probably what I am.
Okay. And you have a film that's coming out that you champion that I'm excited to speak with you about called Persona.
It's my baby.
Oh, second baby. So welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm actually really excited. Who doesn't love talking about cinema? It's my passion, so I definitely love it.
Yeah, me too. So let's start at where it all began. What's your first movie memory?
I don't know if this is my first movie. This is definitely not my first movie memory, but it's the first time that I was really affected by movies and I understood that it wasn't just entertainment all the time. There was something beyond that. And I was 10 years old when I saw Schindler's List in the theaters with my mom. And it was intentional. She knew that it was very advanced material, but she felt I was ready. And we, went to lunch after and had this great discussion. But I was just floored at the way I felt there, the way I felt I had gone through something at the end of that movie and then felt changed. Mm-hmm. And that was like magical to me because that's all I wanted to do in storytelling was to like make a shift in somebody. Mm-hmm. And Steven Spielberg, he did something special with that movie.
Yeah, and telling an important story or a remembering of a history. And I see you wearing red, which brings me back to the little girl in red in the movie.
Oh, gosh.
Which is so tragic.
And such a beautifully done, it made it so special because we all connected with that little bit of color and that little girl and her hope. And again, that's the magic of being a really great storyteller. Like, I don't think she said anything in the movie or almost anything. It was just her innocent presence.
Yeah.
It was special.
Yeah. So what was movie going like with your family? What was the dynamic?
Yeah, so I grew up really poor, like extremely poor. So we didn't have a TV. And on the weekends, you could rent a TV from the library, believe it or not. That was a thing you could do. And so we would, watch a lot of things together as a family because it was a short, period of time we had this thing. And then we would go to movies. But when we went to the theater, it was a truly special, special experience. It was like you almost didn't care what movie you were going to see because you were going to the movies. That was the point. But at the same time, you really cared what movie you went to because you knew it wasn't going to be that many times that you got to go. So that's what I remember is just feeling like the journey to the movies was like going to an amusement park. I was just so excited about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And do you have siblings?
I have an older brother. Yeah.
Okay. I ask that a lot because it kind of changes what movies you're exposed to. Like I find that younger siblings tend to get more advanced films than they maybe are ready for. They get dragged along and vice versa. So did you feel that you got exposed to some advanced movies before, maybe because of the family dynamic?
In a weird way, yes, but not because my brother was exposing me to things that he liked early. It was actually maybe because I was raised by a single parent. And so my mom often had her friends take us out and do things to like have us feel like we had more community. And so because my brother didn't enjoy those things, this friend would only take me to the movies and he would pick the strangest movies because he didn't have kids. And I was just like his movie-going companion. And afterward, we would have all these really deep intellectual conversations about, a David Lynch movie or something like that, like very inappropriate. But at the same time, not because I was not affected by it poorly. It was awesome. I learned to appreciate how lighting can affect something, how costuming can affect something, how music can affect something, how something can seem weird and you're like, what is happening? I don't even like this. And then you talk to someone else and they're like, oh, this is what I got out of this. And it made me feel like this. And I learned all of that at such an early age, like 12. I was seeing these movies and appreciating them in a deep way. And I think that was because of the sibling, like he didn't want to see movies and I was willing. So in a way, I did grow up a little fast with movies.
Yeah, but that's great. And I think something that's really important is those conversations after, which you've mentioned in both of these cases, your mom having that conversation with you about the heavier content, and then your mom's friend like talking through these movies with you and
Yeah.
the artistry of the films.
I swear it's funny. None of them knew I wanted to be an actor. That wasn't why they were doing it. But it's, of course, I would want to when you get that exposed to that kind of conversation so early. It's just, it's an attractive thing. Being treated like an adult, being treated like you have thoughts and opinions. And I think that's probably why I really loved it.
Yeah. And was there a particular movie or experience that made you realize, like, yes, this is what I want to do with my livelihood? I want to be an actress or act. Is it right to say actress or actor these days?
It's so funny. I say actor all the time because I don't think I have to define that I'm a woman if I'm an actor, but I also have no problem when people call me an actress, and I don't really stand on a platform either way.
Yeah, I'm just like with women's rights, I was like we don't have to identify ourselves as anything other than what we are, right?
Yeah. If you really want to, if you identify as an actress, then do that. I just identify as an actor, but yeah, I don't have a problem either way. I really was inspired to be an actor, not by movies, but by, and I think because nobody in movies looked like me, nobody in TV looked like me growing up. So it wasn't like I saw something and I said, ooh, I say that. There was one time Halle Berry did Queen. I don't know if you remember that. It was a made for TV movie about Alex Haley's other side of his family. Roots was written by Alex Haley, and it's about one side of his family. And then years and years later, he did Queen, which is about the other side of his heritage. And Halle Berry played the lead. And it was released weekly. I've never been so excited to watch every minute and wanting to rewatch it. And I think it was great, but I think it was also simply because I saw someone who looked like me doing something great. And I thought, oh, these dreams, they could be real. I could do that. So that was a pivotal thing for me to see at that age.
Yeah, we really need representation on screen. And for all the little girls watching, exactly. I have to say, sometimes I would come up with careers from the movies that I watched. I don't know. I think I watched the one where Gwyneth Paltrow kills her husband gets killed in the house, and she's an interpreter. I don't remember the name of the movie. It's like Perfect Murder.
I feel like I would know a Gwyneth Paltrow movie too. That's not ringing bells.
I feel like it's The Perfect Murder. And then you find out that she's dating Viggo Mortensen, and we don't know who, like that.
That's ringing bells for me. Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I'll learn languages. So that's what I got out of that movie. I
love that. That's funny. Did you actually go into learning languages?
No.
Oh.
No.
It's funny. I think that's probably what I love about acting, actually, is when you get a role and you have to learn something new, it's the same feeling. It's like if I read that and they were offering me the part, I'd be like, oh, I get to learn all these languages and I get to learn what translators do. And that's genuinely one of my favorite things about a part is the things I will learn in order to be better at that part.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I like about writing is the research of just diving in and getting to know a world and a character's journey, and just, having, especially when you start writing beyond yourself.
Yeah. Trying to figure out, like, how would a man feel about this? How would a child feel about this? Yeah. It's very mind opening, which is what movies can do for us. That's the beauty of it. It's important to see yourself on screen, but it's also important to see other people's lives on screen. It makes us understand each other in a totally different way. I'm huge into understanding and empathy. That's just like the most important thing to me. And I think movies are some of the best ways that we can teach empathy and understanding to other people.
Yeah. Repeat this over and over on the podcast, but I started this podcast because when my son was born, I had a list of movies I wanted to show him. And I started having conversations with friends, and I was like, well, how long do I have to wait before he's ready for that movie? And how long do I have to wait until he's ready for that movie? And then these conversations started becoming really fun. And I thought anyone who loves movies and wants to see a future for cinema with our kids, why not, go into conversation. And some of the things that I think I knew but never thought about, because I'm coming at movies from a parental perspective,
Totally.
is, when is it appropriate? What are the conversations we can have? How can I use it as a tool as he gets older to talk about things he's going to experience, but without it having to be about him? There's so many different ways to use cinema as a tool.
It's an amazing tool. Like I was watching, oh dear, I don't remember what this was. It was some informational history movie on Netflix. And throughout the whole thing, my mom and I were watching it together, and we would pause and then we would look something up and talk about it and then go back to watching it. And I was thinking, how brilliant would that be if that was my history class?
Yeah.
Because they would show you movies sometimes, but they usually weren't that good. And I don't mean movies. They'd show you like, things that were created to teach you about history, but they were just kind of stuffy. And nowadays people are doing magnificent work in movies. And that is the best way for us to like really see something. And you can learn so much about it. But I think the key, if I'm listening to myself, is the conversations that we have about these things, because you get so much more out of it when you say these things out loud and someone else can either reinforce it or say, that's not what I saw. And it kind of saturates your brain in a totally different way.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I feel about Darren Aronofsky films. I have trouble. They're not easy movies to watch. And I don't find them entertaining, but I find them incredibly important and special at the same time. So after the movies, I specifically love hearing him speak about his movie. And then I see all of the layers and the thoughtfulness and everything that I didn't necessarily, because I was trying to just experience it and not think about it, But I've always had that. I've always had to watch his movies twice or three times.
That's probably a great compliment to him. Although you said you didn't find them entertaining. I don't particularly.
I know it's like a backwards compliment, I guess. I don't particularly like your. I don't like how he makes them, but I like what he makes. Maybe that's what it is.
That is so interesting, and I'm sure you learn more about yourself and the world by watching his movie than a movie that you really, really like, even because it makes you think and process differently. And and that's me why I like doing what I do.
Yeah. And art is so subjective. Taste is so subjective. So just because something doesn't speak to me doesn't mean it's bad, So
and you go and see it multiple times. So you're actually supporting his art, even if you don't love it.
I but I care for it. I think it's it's full of craft,
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. If that I find more and more people have now. When I first moved out to LA, a lot of people, if you were in the industry, you appreciated craft. Otherwise, you just wanted to see a good movie with a big star in it, and you really didn't care. And you really didn't get why it was bad. Why did I not like that movie? Now there are so many cinephiles. I think the internet opens things up for these discussions, and people can see so much more. And now you see so many people who are like you, who are like, well, maybe it wasn't entertaining, but my God, the cinematography. Did you see the lighting? That wardrobe stylist killed it. It's so interesting. And I think that's a beautiful thing that has happened, even though I think it is a little scary. I don't know what the future for cinema is going to be. I love where it's come from.
There's two things. We were talking about education. So one of the things that brought up for me was how boring our educational materials are, and the reason why a younger generation is turning to TikTok for their, and so it's like, and we have to go where they are. We have to up our standards. We have to write more, we have to write the history in a way that kids these days can absorb it and not give the textbooks. I mean, it was boring for us, but we didn't have another sense of story. Now,
we didn't have an option, but we do now, and we should be using it.
Yeah. And how we teach, we just embrace it. I remember my French teacher had us watch La Haine, the hate. And I was like 15. It was a pretty advanced movie for our age, but it had the French rap in it, and we learned the French rap song, and we were interested in and we were learning about the culture of France, not just the language. And I so appreciated that.
I do wish they would do that more. I think it's probably teacher to teacher. And then there's also probably the issues of clearing material because as we've said, like my mom took me to see Schindler's List and I definitely think there's going to be a side of America who thinks that 10 years old was way too early for that. And then, so how do you get, cinema and movies into classrooms and make sure that everyone agrees? I do think it's hard, but we should try. We should be trying to entertain children, like you said, where they go and what they want to see. And they don't want to sit and watch a stuffy documentary, but they would love to hear the history if you could teach it in a way they liked.
Like Hamilton.
Yes, like, that's a great example of people who wouldn't have cared at all, but now have so much knowledge about that time because they like the song.
Yeah, because it was, entertaining and I guess given to them in a better package. And then the other thing that you said that is something that I talk about a lot, which is another like basis for even having these conversations is where are movies going? And what does that look like? Movies are going to theaters for smaller runs and shorter times. And we're only seeing the ability to see big movies. And then, we're lucky in Los Angeles, there's some theaters that show some amazing films and keep them going and curate but for the rest of the country, they don't get that experience to see.
And that is really sad because what we're talking about, that we learn so much from movies. And so there's a whole part of the country that's not experiencing the same things that we can experience here in LA and New York and the big markets. And I think that's probably what the disconnect is actually with cinema and audiences is it hasn't changed. Like you watch a movie that was 25 years old and it looks as good, if not better, in a lot of cases, which is crazy. But I think people are just like, first of all, COVID makes people not want to be contained in rooms with people. And I think that's still kind of on people's mind. And then secondly, my money is important. And how am I going to spend it? I have a giant TV. I have good speakers. Why would I go out to see this movie? And then on top of it, if you add that you're not even seeing anything new, you're seeing the exact same thing you saw last time. The same big actors, it's going to boom, 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 crash, happy ending. It's hard to get people to go. So I don't know what the future is, but I would not write cinema off because Hollywood and entertainment, there is as solid as death and taxes, I think, because people want to be entertained and Hollywood is creative. And I think we will figure out the way to zig and zag and create a new lane for ourselves. But I also think it might be a sad lane where theaters are kind of just not important in releasing movies anymore. And that's sad because you want that moment where you're all together and you have that experience where you swell as an audience or you lean in as an audience and you don't get that when you sit at home.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm loving that filmmakers are buying theaters, that what happened, which is really a really fun.
Very smart.
Yes, it's very smart. And there's a lot of the movies for younger, like the Stand By Me's and the E.T.s and those kinds of beautiful craft, younger adult movies are going straight to streaming. And then they're trying, I think the studios want movies to feel like YouTube now because they think that's going to get Gen Z, which is why you're feeling the quality shift. But now when I've been doing a lot of research around Gen Z for a movie I'm writing and that everything is telling me that they want movies to be movies. They want craft and they're interested in real craft. And it's so rare. Like they're not being made at the same rate as they used to be.
That is really inspiring. And that makes me really happy to hear because it makes sense because as we said, there's more cinephiles, there's more people who understand how much goes into making a great something. And so that's great to hear that they want to see more of that. I don't know how we translate that to Hollywood because the disconnect is so strong. I mean, we've been saying the same thing for probably 20 years, that the only movies that are easy to make are comic book movies or sequels. And yet it's the same thing that we've been, and I just don't think that's what main audiences want to see all the time. But we as audiences, we have to push those other agendas a little bit stronger, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I hope something one day does like a Little Miss Sunshine runaway hit again, where it's like a small theater, people see it, and it just grows and grows and grows. So speaking of indie film, let's transition a little bit to Persona. There are a few different things I want to talk about or ask you about with regards to Persona. The first is just what about this story? I mean, you championed it, you worked with the writer, you really brought this to fruition. So what was it about this story that was so important to you?
There were just so many things. As a woman of color, as we talked about not seeing myself represented on screen, of course, that's what I'm looking for, is a positive representation of a woman of color. But that doesn't mean it has to be a perfect character, a person who just walks around looking beautiful and acting exactly right. I want people to see that, everyone has layers, and women are intricate, interesting beings that come in all shapes and colors. And so when I read this script, first of all, for the first 20 pages, it's just one person on screen. And when I was reading the script, I was holding it like this, and I realized that I had not physically moved at all because I had been transported directly into this script. I could see everything. I could feel it. I was going through it with her, because the story starts out with a woman who's wakes up on the floor of a disgusting kitchen, dirty, is in pain everywhere. She has a few obvious bruises. She's got a huge gash on her head, and her ankle is clearly extremely injured. But other than that, she just doesn't know what's going on. Everything just hurts. And she has no memory. So you're going through that with her discovering like all of these things, and then going, okay, so let me just get out of this house. And then her discovering that she can't, there are locks on the doors and there's wood on the windows, and this is not a good situation. And there was just something really magical about the idea of audiences just watching a woman discover something really interesting. I loved that. You don't see that very often. Then I got into it a little more, and it's actually it's a psychological thriller, horror, suspense, so fast-paced and fun. But it's also at its heart just a story about two women trying to get out, trying to figure out something and work together. And that's also something you don't see. You don't see two women on screen just being regular people and having conflicts that are not about their womanhood or about a man, or that are just real. So reading that, and then on top of it, that it had all the right twists and turns and it really went somewhere, I just felt so passionate about making sure that this movie was made, but also made the right way. Don't hire beautiful women who can't act to stand there and woe is me. Like, get in there, get these women to work hard and portray something new and different, and audiences will come. Now, that's the scary thing, because as we said, we don't know where audiences will go anymore, and we don't know where movies will go anymore. So in making it, I just had to really put it all on faith and say, if I make a great movie, that will matter. People will care that we took the time to light it right. People will care that we took the time to do the right makeup and special effects and, spray us down with sweat. And, people will care that we all cared about this project. And that really is a risk, because we don't know who will care and we don't know who will turn out. But I honestly have never been more proud of anything I've done. I made sure that we were over 75% BIPOC cast and crew every day, and over 50% female. And it made a difference. Like, the set energy, it was just a total camaraderie, and everyone was so excited to be there and excited to get the best idea forward. There was just no ego. There was no yelling. It was very dreamy. And then to come out with a product that I also think is so superior feels really like affirming. We can do this, ladies, and people of color and people who have ideas. Like, get out there, stand firm, and make a great movie, and people will go and see it, I hope.
Is it in theaters? Is it streaming?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're doing the festival circuit. We're trying to figure out who our audience is, because traditionally you would say you have women of color on screen, so women of color would be your audience. But that's just not true. Everyone is going to want to see this movie. It's a really great psychological thriller that's truly going to keep you guessing and leaning forward the whole time. And that's not just a female story. So we have to do like the festival circuit and kind of get this swell up, as you said, a Little Miss Sunshine, and see, what else we can do with this incredible movie.
Yeah. So it's for sale. I just want to make sure. I want to put that out there. Big numbers.
Big numbers on all sides, because I want people to, it's kind of a joke. Of course, I want big numbers because I financed it and that would be great for everyone involved. But honestly, I want big numbers because when you can show Hollywood one thing and then you have the receipts to show what they can get on that return, they'll do it again.
Yeah.
And they won't if you don't succeed. And you have to succeed wildly in order to break the chain of this cycle. So I also feel a little bit of pressure to make sure that we succeed with Persona, because we can, it's good enough. And if we do it, then more people will get these opportunities.
Do you have a sales agent?
We don't have a sales agent yet, because part of what was really important to me on this project was to only work with really good people, genuinely. People that you want at your barbecue, people that you love and care about, and people that think the same-ish, like that are in that place of good kindness. For instance, there's some people in the industry that just, let's get it done. And they don't think speaking politely matters. And that's fine. I can work on a set with you with that. I'm fine with that. But that's not what I want. On my set, I'd like us all to remember that speaking politely to each other literally takes about 2 more seconds. And we're going to work with that. So unfortunately, the lawyers and sales agents that I have found so far that love the project, I don't want to have at my barbecue. I don't really even want to be in a room with them. And so it's hard for me, because I think that when we find the right person and the right fit, that will help everyone. And if I just select anyone who doesn't really get it, that's when we're just going to get sold off to some streamer and no one will see it.
Yeah.
I'm looking for good people.
All right. So I'm going to move on to another question that I have, which was in the bio, which I personally have a lot of questions around, because I'll share this with you. I'm a single mom by choice. And so I had my son on my own. And in doing so, I have been focusing on writing, because the idea of being on set away from him without another parent just feels really like a lot. But I've been coming across through the podcast amazing, strong women like yourself who change the rules to make it work for them and for their family. So I would love for you to speak to the experience of having a young child and being so involved in a film you're passionate about.
First of all, I could talk all day about being so happy to be a mom and my daughter. Like I went through IVF to have a baby. And so, she was so wanted, and she was, we craved her for so long that when she came, it didn't feel like I could just, put her down and go and do something. As you're saying, you want them to be with you. But I also really wanted to show her what a woman can do and what I can do. And I had this creative, energy, and I needed to use it. And so I kind of do this thing where I put it to the universe, to God at night. I ask a question and I say, I know it's going to work out. And then I go to bed. And in the morning, I feel like I have these great ideas. And one of them was just like, just keep her with you the whole time. It's not that hard to step away and deal, even though it is, but it will be so much more beneficial for her to be there, for you to be there. And I just literally took it as part of pre-production. It was part of the job to understand that we need breastfeeding times here. We need a break here because she breastfeeds this point. I needed a strategy for how to stay in a scene when I needed to do that and not be mom. But that was actually the coolest thing about it, is when I needed to get out of the character, it was instant. I just would look at my daughter and it was like, oh, Shanti again. Yeah. Leave all of that in that creepy house. So I encourage everyone to bring their children into their life as much as possible, because it's better for you. You get to do the things that you want to do as a human yourself. But more than that, your children grow and learn so much more from being in new environments and seeing new things and having expectations. My daughter was only 14 or 15 months, and she understood that she can't talk when we're on set. If you want to sit here and the light is on, you don't talk. And you would think, oh, that she couldn't possibly understand that, but she really did, and she was great on set. There wasn't a single issue. And it is funny. I breastfed her just out in public, not like, brazenly, but like she needs to eat, I'm eating, let's eat.
Yeah.
And I never thought about it, honestly. I never thought about the fact that I'm a producer on this job and, I'm sort of forcing everyone else to be in my world until it was done. And I don't know if it was the right thing to do. I don't know, they build these nursing rooms for people and we're supposed to like go away and tuck ourselves away. And that just bothers me because I'm not doing something to be ashamed of.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one thing on my set that I guess I don't know if it was the right way to do it because I really did just breastfeed her in the middle of everything. When she's hungry, she's got to eat.
Yeah. There's a director I had on named Deborah Kampmeyer who was telling me about her first feature and that her baby was breastfeeding and she, if she needed it, she'd whip out her boob. She would be doing a scene and the baby was eating. Look, if they're eating, they're quiet, right?
Exactly. There's something about becoming a mom when you are breastfeeding that you just forget that these things used to be like,
sexual.
Sexy or that people are supposed to, they're private because it really is just the most incredible feeling of being with your child and doing something that's so natural. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I think we forget that it's a little jarring for other people. Yeah. But I moved my whole family into my set trailer. And we lived there, my mom, my husband, my dog, and my daughter in this little tiny one-room set trailer for the whole shoot. But it had to be done because if I had to carpool, if I had to be worried that my daughter wasn't breastfeeding or something, and instead I just had it all right here. My world just got really small for a second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's so great that your mom could come too.
That was so special. Because same thing. It was special because she was there to help, but it was also special because we got to experience things together.
Yeah. I saw this really funny comedian who talks about grandparents of like, they're someone who 35 years later, 40 years later, haven't done a job, like if they were an employee and they haven't gotten any new training. And yet they come in as if they know exactly what to do and you have no idea.
That's really true. That's a funny way of saying it. It's true. Yeah. Like they think they're pros, but they haven't actually done it in 30 years or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I found that's one of those memes you send to all your mom friends, right? Yeah.
I'm not sending it to my mom. She would not like it. She'd be like, "Excuse me, I've been doing this my whole life."
Yeah, my mom, I sent her every book I was reading, developmental book, and I was like, if you want to be with my kid, you have to read it.
I like that, so that you're on the same page too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
my mom lives in my back house, so we talk about all that kind of stuff. But I'm the same way. Like if I have an idea of how I want to be conveying some sort of message to my daughter, then I do make sure to tell everyone in her life, like, this is what we're doing when this happens, or this is what we're, shifting her toward. Yeah.
And so moving on to your daughter, have you shown her movies yet?
Yeah, I have. So I find it really interesting that a lot of actors don't show their kids their movies. They'll be like huge stars and their kids are like 20 years old and they're like, I don't think they've seen anything I've done. And that makes me sad because I feel like you're hiding part of your life, who you are, from your children. Mm-hmm. I don't think most people, don't know that their dad's a dentist and haven't been to the dental office. So I just bring Alora in and she loves anything with music, anything with a fun, vibrant beat. So we watch, a lot of musicals and we dance and we reenact it. I don't watch movies and just sit and stare at them with her because she is too young for that. And I don't think she's getting anything out of that. Mm-hmm. But we recently actually watched Sing, the animated movie. She just had a blast. And, sometimes we stop and talk about what's actually going on. And sometimes we're just dancing to the music. Mm-hmm. But I'm excited to show her everything. I am really excited to show her the original West Side Story. Mm-hmm. That was the movie I saw in 6th grade that just lit sparks in me. It was like, oh my goodness, you can dance and you can be sassy. And so I definitely want to watch her watch that. Mm-hmm. I've shown her a couple of my Christmas movies I was interested to see how she would react to seeing me on screen playing someone different. Just didn't care at all. She just kept saying, Mommy, what's Mommy doing? Mommy. So we've seen a couple Christmas movies. We've seen a lot of musicals. Mm-hmm. And we watch a lot of Netflix documentaries while we're playing with something else. Mm-hmm. And every now and then she'll stop and ask me what's going on. And like I said, I wish they did that in schools. Mm-hmm. So I enjoy doing that with her too.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I read my son a book every night that he loves called A Bear Snores On. And there's an itty bitty mouse at the beginning of the book that goes into the cave. And one day, out of nowhere, he started talking about, I see an itty bitty mouse. And I was like, wait, do you really see a mouse?
Like, really?
Yes, really? Or is this make believe? And then I went back and read the book with him that night. I was like, oh my gosh. And he was like just quoting from the book, and I didn't even put it together. And he does that from so I'm really careful about what is on around him, because he just repeats and he absorbs, he's like 2 and 2 months now. And he's very verbal of a kid. So he talks all the time. I don't think he would be able to be quiet on set.
You might be surprised. My daughter's the same way. She is literally like a little linguist. She has full sentences. She's also 2 in a month, I think. But she just understood. She's been on more than one set with me, and everybody. The other thing is I include her in like dance class and CrossFit. And in both of those things that I go to, there's a moment where you're not supposed to talk. Everyone listens. The dance teacher's talking. Everyone stays still. The CrossFit coach is explaining something. Nobody's talking. And from a very early age, she came with me since she was 2 months old. And even at that time, I would remind her, like, obviously a 2-year-old or 2-month-old might not really understand, but it's just been a consistent thing for her to understand there are times when I don't get to say anything. And I took her on to my first Christmas movie I did after having her, thinking that my husband would have to run her away pretty often, but she got it. When everyone goes, all right, action, it's a really loud moment, and you watch everybody go, everyone sort of freezes, and she just took that, she just runs with that. So.
Yeah, that's great. I had this dream pre-pandemic. Well, I did 2 years of IVF, so I kind of know that struggle. So I was like, I took this ballet class that was in LA, and there was a bunch of women, and a couple of them would bring their kids, and one would bring their baby and put them down. And I dreamt that when I postpartum would bring my baby to ballet class. Well, it was COVID, so we weren't really taking ballet class.
Right.
But my kid just didn't sit still. Like, he would cry, but he just wasn't that kid, And exactly. I was just, okay, I'll get to ballet class when it's time to get me back to ballet class.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I only have one, so I honestly am not the person to ask, but I do see kids they're born with a personality, and if it's just not going to work, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Though I do think he would love a dance class.
Well, you're welcome to come to mine. Mine is very kid-friendly, and my husband's always there with my daughter, so you'd have another eye for your son. They could hang out. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, my son dances. Like, he hears music, he gets up and dances. Moana has been a big hit in our house.
I'll do that one. Is there a lot of violence in Moana, though?
No, not really, because she's going. There's Te Kā, which is like the kind of lava man. Woman, but it's it's a young girl who has to travel across the ocean to return the heart of the sea to Fiji. So it's like actiony, but it's not, and it's a lot of music, but it's not one of those typical like a parent dies movies.
Yeah. See, for me, the themes aren't even the biggest thing, because I think you can explain a lot of themes to a child, but I cannot do the cartoons and movies that physically have, a cartoon picking someone up and banging them around or throwing a cat or dog. It's like, you can't explain to a child why that's not okay to do, or at least not easily. So I'm particular about what I show her, just with the action, especially, and the way that people treat other people in movies, because I'd like her to be set in who she is before she understands that, some people aren't that awesome. Some people don't say the nice things that you say, but you should. Yeah.
I mean, if something ever comes on screen, I always watch with him. So it's never like a background thing. I'm always listening. And if someone's not nice, I'm like, that wasn't nice. Wasn't that not nice? Okay, yes, that's not nice. Great. They're not happy. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's also really into Monsters, Inc., but it's a little scary, but it's funny. but
Okay.
he's really into it. And we had to make a sign for his door that says no monsters allowed. So it turned into a creative craft activity.
That's really cute. That's really cute.
Yeah.
These are good movies. I'll have to add them to the list.
Yeah. I put on The Good Dinosaur, not remembering. It was too scary for him.
Oh.
The dad gets swept up and away, and he didn't.
What is that? Why do so many kids' movies start with something that's so traumatizingly tragic?
Yeah.
You know, like The Lion King, I was genuinely traumatized when Mufasa died. I didn't want to stay and watch the movie. The only reason I stayed is because I thought there was a chance he wasn't really dead and he was going to come back at the end. And I don't know why the kids' movies have to be these themes. It seems a little traumatizing.
I was talking to a specialist on the podcast in children's content and and mental health and I was like, well, what should I show my son? And she's like, oh, Mr. Rogers, like he's the best. And so I put on the first episode. So it's streaming somewhere, and I found the episode. I put on the first episode, and it was about his dog dying. And I was like, what? It's
like, no,
this is supposed to be nice.
I mean, I'm sure he taught it in a really beautiful way, but it's also like, it's not that I don't want my daughter to learn that lesson, but we have a dog. And is she going to then constantly be worried about the dog dying? It just seems a little early for her to learn that lesson.
Exactly. It feels young for that lesson. And then sometimes like I try to put on Benji for him, which is a rated G, right? And it was scary for him. So we turned it off.
Yeah. I think that's why we've gone with just musicals. Like even, what's the musical that's like Sing, but with real people? I can't think of it. I think some of the language is a little adult, but for me, my daughter doesn't repeat things just the way that you're saying your son does. So it hasn't really bothered me. But even though the theme is a little bit older, what she's seeing is just people singing and dancing. And, so that's been what I've gone with. But I really do want to show her movies that she understands the through line of the story. I think she's probably ready.
Yeah. For Miles' second birthday, I actually rented a theater and got a print of The Red Balloon.
Oh, wow.
And brought his preschool class. And it was all their first time in a movies. And since I had the theater, they could walk around. And they were like, I have pictures of Miles standing on like the front stage, staring at the screen, just mesmerized.
Oh my gosh. What a special experience for you and for him. You did good on that one.
Yeah, I was proud of myself. And a lot of the parents really was like, it was their first time bringing their kids. So it was equally as special for all of the families. And so it may be a tradition.
Yeah, I was going to say, I might have to steal that. That's a great idea of bringing your child to the movies for the first time, just to like see it and understand what it is, but no pressure, no worrying about having to leave or anything like that. Yeah.
And then
good job. Good one.
And it's a short movie. It was like 35 minutes. So it wasn't like.
And you're so smart to get your own print of something and shoot that. That's really great. I love that.
And they didn't have a DCP of that movie. So I was like, well, I can make you a DCP. So I called Janus Films and was like, and they're like, no, you cannot make us a DCP. But we have a restored print in LA, or we have a Blu-ray DVD, if you use the print, we have to approve the theater. And so I was like, well, I'll take the print. And I went and I drove to the Valley and I picked it up and I like brought it back.
That's a lot of work. Your son, I hope you tell him this story one day and say, remember, I'm a good mom.
It was such a fun pleasure to do. I just loved it.
I feel you. I threw my daughter a tea party for her second birthday and, like running around, doing everything, trying to make it perfect. And then she walks in and it was just like all worth it. Seeing her little face, like she gave me way more than I gave her that day for sure.
Yeah. Super fun. All right. I'm going to bring us to my last question. I can't believe we're heading up on the hour already. What movie do you recommend I show my son as he grows up that makes him fall in love with cinema?
Well, Persona. It's this little independent movie that you're just kidding. I do not recommend that actually. I mean, maybe when he's older.
Like 17.
Yeah. There you go. A movie to make him fall in love with cinema. Oh, that's just such a beautifully romantic question. And I don't have an answer because I think it depends on the person and who he is. And, I'm a really passionate person who loves to hear a story and have my heartstrings pulled, which I think is why Schindler's List was my movie. And it really just depends on who he is. I I think you're wise to show him the really great movies. Don't cave and show just the kind of movies that we were talking about that are just made. Show the great works of art. And then I think it'll be fun to hear from you what it was that inspired him, because it's probably not going to be the thing that you think, like I remember seeing Citizen Kane in school and being like this, like, people like this, and I feel really bad. I should watch it again now. But at that age, that did not move me. That did not affect me. And so I don't know what it would be for your son, but I think you should explore, like maybe explore directors one week or one month, and just find interesting directors and compare their, movies, or find actors that he really loves and see their early work, and just raise a little cinephile, see what inspires him.
Yeah. I can't wait until he's ready for us to have movie nights and just
What is your dream of a movie that he would love and that you would have movie night with him?
The movie that I'm most excited to take him to the theater to see, which I'm going to hold back until he's 4, I think.
Yeah.
Is E.T. I wanted to find it because the New Beverly just showed the original print with the original trailers before it. And I think taking him to a theater to see a print of that movie with other people who are cinephiles in the audience, to me, that's one I'm really holding out for. I'm 2 more years. Really special. I can wait 2 more years. That, or I'll either do his 4-year-old birthday party with his friends and do E.T.
I don't think you can mess up doing that birthday party. That could be his birthday every year till he's 18, and I think he would love it, because that's really awesome. You run the whole place, bring anyone you want, watch a great movie. It's so smart. I just thought of one I'm actually really excited to share with my daughter. I have to watch it again and make sure all the themes are right and everything. But I was obsessed with Dirty Dancing, so I would love to show her that when the time is right. Again, I think it was a great movie, right? It's not just that I loved it and I'm a dancer. There are some really awesome things that they did on a really low budget, and they were in the trenches making that movie. And I love that.
I love that movie.
I don't know if you're aware, but my daughter is actually named after the character in Willow. So I definitely want to show her Willow at some point.
Yeah. Dirty Dancing was one of the movies. I sometimes ask a question, is there a movie that you saw that you're not supposed to see, that your parents didn't want you to see? And that was my Dirty Dancing. I was at a friend's sleepover and her older sister had rented it, and we woke up early in the morning and watched it, and I was obsessed. And later you forget there's a whole abortion backstory.
Oh, right.
In it, which is pretty advanced for a 10-year-old. Yeah. But I understood it, but it didn't affect me.
Same. Even when you're saying it, I've seen the movie 100 times. And of course I remember that, but that is not what you get out of those scenes. What you're feeling is the woman feeling trapped and her wanting to help other people and wanting to be an adult and show who she is on her own. And you don't really even think about that she's trying to help someone do that. That's just a side note.
Yeah. And that, she has to call her father to do something to help someone.
God, it's such a good movie. Now I want to go watch it again. You're reminding me. It's it was beautiful.
It's such a good movie. I haven't watched it in a minute. I have to again. Well, Shanti, thank you so much. This was such a fun conversation.
It really was. It's so nice to talk to you and meet you. And I love that our babies are the same age. We'll have to share movies every now and then.
I know. Or, you definitely have to come to my movie birthday parties.
We'll be there. We want to be on the list. We're there.
Awesome. It was so good to meet you.
So good to meet you.
If you enjoyed the conversation, please don't forget to like and subscribe. New episodes release every Wednesday. And leave a comment and let me know which movie you think I should show my son. Until next time, take care.